Hi everyone, Bill Farrell with Farrell Engineering. Wanted to talk today about CO2 inflators. These are the devices we use to attach a CO2 cartridge to the fizzy fitting. So it generally looks like this. But before I get into that, I wanted to just have a quick announcement about the fizzy fitting itself. There's been just a couple reports of some leaks, and what it has been is this little O-ring right there between this kind of knurled nut and the plastic body. Sometimes this will loosen up during shipment and it will just have a slight little hissing sound. So what you should do in that case is you just put your finger up through the bottom of the fitting. I like to take just a small pair of pliers that have some teeth in there, just so they don't slip, and they grab that knurling. You put that on there and you crank it down. So, I mean, you really shouldn't see much of that black O-ring in between the nut and the plastic fitting. It should be really tight there. And don't be afraid to crank it down until the bottom's out. These fizzy fittings they're printed solid. I mean, there's 100% infill. So a lot of plastic parts, they'll just print outer walls and inner walls that may be a millimeter thick, and then 15 to maybe 50% infill. So what you're buying is a hollow part. That's why they feel so light. But the fizzy fitting it's solid 100% infill plastic all the way through. I even stopped one and kind of sliced it in the middle of printing so you can see. And that's solid plastic. And where that Presto valve goes through, where it's real thin, that may be 12, 14 millimeters of solid plastic in there. So you can crank this thing down and it will not break the plastic. So don't worry about that. If it's leaking, you hear a hiss, just crank down on that nut. Now, another thing about these, I call this black thing a gasket. It's not really a gasket. It doesn't provide any sealing. As I said in my other video about the hopper port, that hopper port seals on this cylindrical part. It's a sliding seal. So this really just acts as a stop, and that bottoms out on that white collar on the top of the hopper port. So, in the past I've included a spare gasket, but I'm just not going to do that anymore. These things, they just stay in place. They don't wear out, and it's, like I said, just a spacer more than anything. So I wouldn't even put any silicone lube on this part. On the cylindrical part where it slides into the O-ring, yes, very important to put some silicone lube on that, but not so much on this gasket or spacer part up here. Okay, now to the topic at hand. We're talking about CO2 inflators. Now I've tested every type of CO2 inflator because I wanted to use what I thought was the best, most robust, and provided the best user experience, as well as a good seal on the cartridge and the fizzy fitting. So I've tried everything. Bargain basement, you start with these little press-on deals. So there's no actuator on these, so you just screw it onto your cartridge and press it on, and the act of pressing on to the valve stem pushes in a little stem inside of here that allows the CO2 to flow. And then when you pull it off, it stops. But this is, of course, really crude. It's a cheap way to make a valve, but it wasn't good, especially since we want to maintain pressure in this for multiple uses in the future in case you don't use the whole cartridge at one go. So a step above that are these little push button deals. So this one, you thread your cartridge on there and it activates by pressing this little button. So that's a little better. You can stop it pretty quick, but it doesn't allow you to regulate it. It's just on or off. So that's, step above. Then we get to what I've seen the most of online are these little red devils, as I call them. And there's a couple flavors of them, but they're generally, big clunky aluminum machine deals. And they've got these red levers that they just kind of stop in a random position. Now these are probably the cheapest of the good options, and you'll see these on numerous YouTube videos, as well as other products. They'll sell these with their kits, but the problem with these are you thread these on and they will wiggle. I mean, and I wasn't thrilled with that, because then there's really no stopping point. I'm going to try to thread this on. For one, this rotating collar, it's almost useless. It's so tight. So you end up kind of rotating this whole assembly on there to get it on there. And then it's just loosey-goosey the whole way down, and it wiggles around, and you don't know where to stop, where it's providing a seal. And I just didn't like these for that reason. Plus, they're just kind of inelegant. I mean, they've got this big goofy lever on it with a screw going down the middle. And that's how I came to the Briskmore valve. This is the one that I've sold with every turnkey Presta kit since we started. And it's a great little valve. It provides a positive seal. It's got a really fine and accurate actuator here, so you can really control the flow of CO2, and it seals great. So there wasn't any problem with these per se, except for the expense. And I'm very upfront about the pricing of my kits. A lot of it is driven by these little Briskmore valves, and I mean, these, you can see what I pay for them on Amazon is what you'll pay for them on Amazon, about $15 each. So it's a significant part of the kit cost. As the fizzy fitting became more and more popular, and I was selling more and more of these Briskmore valves, I started researching and contacting some of these manufacturers to see if there's some way we could improve these a little bit, make them a little more elegant. And I came across a company in China that makes primarily equipment for racing bicycles, which is really what a Presta valve is. You'll see those on a lot of high-end bicycles. It's an inflator valve. So I contacted this company. They sent me a sample. This is actually the very sample they sent me a couple months ago. And it's a great little valve. I mean, and even after a couple months of sitting on the shelf, it's still holding the rest of that CO2 cartridge in there from my initial tests. So I really like this. It's got all of the great features of the Briskmore. It doesn't have that nasty looking exposed screw on the end either. So I really like how kind of svelte it is. It's a lot more elegant. And they really did a good job on the sealing O-rings in this product. So that was a successful test, and went ahead and contracted with them to make a lot of these valves and ship them to me, and they were kind enough to make my own packaging card for it. So that's kind of cool. And you'll see it comes with a little insulator sleeve that we're all familiar with, as well as pretty cool little laser engraved Farrell Engineering logo on there. So we've already shipped a few dozen of these with our Presta valve kits. They're out there in service as we speak. So I'm really kind of proud of these little gizmos. Like I said, they are very elegant solution. It's got a little laser engraved logo. Very precise valve, and like I said, good sealing, which is critical because you want to let's say you don't use this full cartridge to charge up your beer. You may not use it for a month or two. You want to be able to put this on the shelf and know whatever CO2 pressure was in there, you can rely on that to use it again. And another change I'm making with the fizzy fitting press to turnkey kits, along with the Farrell Engineering valve and the one spacer. So I always used to give the extra spacer with a little baggie of food grade grease, which, I mean, that's good for, a couple of uses, but I really wasn't thrilled with just doling out these little individual baggies. So from now on, we're going to start sending the kits with a syringe of 4 to 5 milliliters of silicone lube. So this allows you to use, I mean, that may be a lifetime supply for a lot of people, but that's a good amount. You can use it on your other O-rings on your Pinter, and it also has this fine little nozzle so you can put it where you want it and not get your hands all greasy. That's about all I had for this time, and I'm signing off for now. Please hit the subscribe button, and I'll be signing back in with another video shortly.